6.1.
Nowadays, we're surrounded by some powerful ideas about the sort of things that will make us happy. The first of these is that we tend to think that really to deliver satisfaction, the pleasures we should aim for need to be rare. We've become suspicious of the ordinary, which we assume is mediocre, dull and uninspiring, and likewise we assume that things that are unique, hard to find, exotic or unfamiliar are naturally going to give us more pleasure. Then we want things to be expensive. If something is expensive, we value it more, whereas if something is cheap or free, it's a little harder to appreciate. The pineapple, for instance, dropped off a lot of people's wish list of fruit when its price fell from exorbitant, they used to cost the equivalent of hundreds of pounds, to unremarkable. Caviar continues to sound somehow more interesting than eggs. Then we want things to be famous. In a fascinating experiment, a well-known violinist once donned scruffy clothes and busked at a street corner and was largely ignored, though people would flock to the world's greatest concert halls to hear just the same man play just the same pieces. Lastly, we want things to be large-scale. We're mostly focused on big schemes that we hope will deliver big kinds of enjoyment: marriage, career, travel, getting a new house. These approaches aren't entirely wrong, but they unintentionally create an unhelpful bias against the cheap, the easily available, the ordinary, the familiar, and the small scale. As a result, if someone says they've been on a trip to a Caribbean island by private jet, we automatically assume they had a better time than someone who went to the local park by bike. We imagine that visiting the Uffizi Gallery in Florence is always going to be nicer than reading a paperback novel in the back garden. A restaurant dinner at which lobster thermidor is served sounds a good deal more impressive than a supper of a cheese sandwich at home. The highlight of a weekend seems more likely to be a hang gliding lesson rather than a few minutes spent looking at the cloudy sky. It feels odd to suggest that a modest vase of lily of the valley, the cheapest flower at many florists, might give us more satisfaction than a Van Gogh original. And yet the paradoxical and cheering aspect of pleasure is how unpredictable it can prove to be. Fancy holidays are not always 100% pleasurable. Our enjoyment of them is remarkably vulnerable to emotional trouble and casual bad moods. A fight that began with a small disagreement can end up destroying every benefit of a 5-star holiday resort. Real pleasures often seem insignificant. Eating a fig, having a bath, whispering in bed in the dark, talking to a grandparent, or scanning through old photos of when you were a child. And yet these small-scale pleasures can be anything but small. If we actually take the opportunity to enjoy them fully, these sort of activities may be among the most moving and satisfying we can have. Fundamentally, this isn't really about how much small pleasures have to offer us. It's about how many good things there are in life that we unfairly neglect. We can't wait for everything that's lovely and charming to be approved by others before we allow ourselves to be delighted. We need to follow our own instincts about what is really important to us.
(6.2) 1,
Second-hand.
2,
Old-fashioned.
3,
Last minute.
4,
Self-conscious.
5,
Worn out.
6,
Homemade.
7,
Air-conditioned.
8,
High risk.
9,
Narrow-minded.
10.
Well behaved.
6.3. 1,
Low-cost airline.
2,
Extracurricular activity.
3,
Dead-end job.
4,
Feel-good movie.
5,
Groundbreaking research.
6,
High-pitched voice.
7,
Labour-saving device.
8,
High-heeled shoes.
9,
Eco-friendly detergent.
10,
Life-changing experience.
6.4. 1,
Hang up. Hung up.
2,
App. Up.
3,
Crashed. Crushed.
4,
Ran out. Run out.
5,
Rang. Rung.
6.5. 1,
What did she say?
She didn't say anything. She just hung up.
2,
Oh no, I don't believe it.
What's up?
3,
My computer's just crashed and I hadn't saved.
Oh no, how annoying.
4,
Can you print out this letter for me?
Sorry, the printer's run out of paper. We'll need to get some more.
5,
Is there still no news from the plumber?
Yes, he rang this morning to say he was coming.
6.6.
How much do you depend on your phone in daily life?
I'm a journalist, and when you're a journalist, it's very difficult to turn your phone off. My job can be unpredictable, for example, being sent to Las Vegas to cover the worst shooting in American history. You know, I get a phone call and I'm on the next flight out.
Would you describe yourself as a techie?
Not really. I only really use WhatsApp and Twitter. I know there's a whole world of apps out there, but I don't feel as if I'm missing out. I mean, I don't sit on the tube frantically playing games on my phone.
So deleting apps wasn't a problem for you?
Well, I miss the two I normally use, but my phone's mainly for reading newspapers and getting information for stories.
How did you find the challenges?
Days 1 to 4 weren't a problem at all. In the evening, it feels absolutely fine to put my phone away. When I go out for dinner with my wife and leave my phone behind, it makes no difference because it would never ever be on the table. In fact, I get a little irritated if I'm in a group and someone is scrolling through a phone. I don't say anything, I just quietly get wound up.
So there was nothing you missed?
Not really. My only real guilty pleasure is checking the football. But the bottom line is, if I wasn't at work, I could live without my phone.
What about the last 3 days?
Days 6 and 7 were more difficult. At the weekend, I normally work from 1 p.m. until after my programme ends, news at 10, about 11 p.m. And without a phone, it's tricky to get a heads up on the stories before work. I considered going out and buying the papers, but part of the attraction of the phone is you don't have to go out in the cold. So I broke the rule and turned my phone on to go through the papers. I was also panicking that if the Queen dropped down dead or some other big news story, they wouldn't be able to get hold of me, and I'd quite like to keep my job. So I decided to keep my phone on, but just not to look at it.
What did you learn from the challenges?
What I learned is that I use my phone more than I thought. By the end of the week, I was actually using it more than when I started. I still like to think I prefer talking face-to-face, but I missed not being able to pick up the phone when I wanted to use it. And I used Twitter more than I thought.
What did you decide you couldn't cope with?
I couldn't cope with not being kept in the loop with friends on WhatsApp. There were group messages I couldn't read or respond to.
And what can you do without?
I still think I can do without social media, but as a journalist, I have to play along with it up to a point because this is how the world works.
Clive's results were surprising. His daily phone screen time had actually gone up from 45 to 50 minutes, and his number of pickups a day from 11 to 16. So maybe he just didn't need to divorce his phone in the first place.
6.7. A.
I've never seen a kid quite so obsessed, and for such a long time, with one particular toy.
B.
The weird thing is, as far as I'm concerned, is that she doesn't really like eating what she makes. In fact, I don't think she has a sweet tooth.
C.
I wouldn't exactly say he was a hypochondriac because he doesn't often go to the doctor, but I do think it's an obsession.
D.
She also has 2 or 3 that live in her flat, and she even used to have one that lived in her office, but I think it died.
E.
She collects the films themselves and as much merchandising as she can. She has dolls from the films, small toys, and anything she can find.
6.8. A.
My nephew Sasha is absolutely obsessed with Lego. He's 9 years old now, but he's been crazy about Lego since he was about 3 or 4 years old, and he is so good at assembling the things that he makes. He never asks for help. He never has done. What he does is he just reads the instructions and then he does it himself. When he wrote his letter to Santa this year, he just put Lego, Lego, and more Lego. Then, a couple of days after Christmas, his parents, that's my brother and my sister-in-law, had a lunch party and a load of people came with kids who were friends of his, and he just refused to come out of his room. And he wouldn't play with them because all he wanted to do was carry on making one of the Lego sets he got for Christmas. I've never seen a kid quite so obsessed, and for such a long time, with one particular toy.
B.
My sister-in-law, Miriam, she's really into baking. She has a very demanding job. She's a surgeon, but she spends loads of her time baking. I think she's got every single cookery book, baking book, that's in print. And in her kitchen, she has 1,000,001 different cake tins and equipment. I have to say, she's incredibly good. Makes the most amazing cakes, biscuits, whatever. But the weird thing is, as far as I'm concerned, is that she doesn't really like eating what she makes. In fact, I don't think she has a sweet tooth. Very weird.
C.
So my partner Miguel is totally obsessed with his health, absolutely obsessed, and it drives me up the wall. He's always talking about how he feels and taking his blood pressure on this wee machine he's got for it and how everything he's eaten has affected his body. And he talks about how many times he's been to the loo. I mean, seriously. And he also takes all these, vitamins, supplements and stuff. The fridge is full of them. I wouldn't exactly say he was a hypochondriac because he doesn't often go to the doctor, but I do think it's an obsession. And nothing makes him happier than sitting down with a lovely herbal tea and a mate and going on and on about his health problems. And of course, at the end of the day, there's actually nothing wrong with him. He's the healthiest person you've ever met, so it's quite a joke, really.
D.
I've got a Polish friend called Dagmara who has a bit of an obsession with cats. She's got this small plot of land with like a shed near where she lives, and she's got about 40 cats there, which she goes and feeds every day, and they've all got names. And she's always rescuing new cats she finds all over the place and taking them there. She also has 2 or 3 that live in her flat, and she even used to have one that lived in her office, but I think it died. And everything in her house, like mugs, towels, crockery, all of it has got something to do with cats. And like, she's so normal in about every other way, but she does have a thing about cats. It's kind of weird.
E.
A mate of mine, well, his girlfriend Sylvia really likes, actually I think it's fair to say she's obsessed with Disney, anything Disney, the films. She collects the films themselves and as much merchandising as she can. She has dolls from the films, small toys and anything she can find. She even wears clothes, and the clothes have pictures of Disney characters all over them. Right now, it's getting a bit out of hand because she doesn't have a very big flat, and there's Disney stuff everywhere, and it takes up all the room. There's toys all over her bed. Her boyfriend's getting a bit fed up with the whole thing, and I can't say I blame him.
6.9. 1,
She's really into baking.
2,
I think she's got every single cookery book, or baking book, that's in print.
3,
He's always talking about how he feels
4,
and going on and on about his health problems.
5,
Has a bit of an obsession with cats.
6,
She does have a thing about cats.
7,
Right now, it's getting a bit out of hand because she doesn't have a very big flat.
6.10. 1,
Nowadays, a lot of people are obsessed with celebrities and their lifestyles.
2,
A lot of young people are addicted to social media.
3,
Many young people are hooked on video games.
4,
Lots of teenage boys are mad about football.
5,
Many 30-year-olds are still dependent on their parents.
6,
Some people are fed up with the amount of sport on TV.
7,
Older people aren't always as open to new ideas as younger people are.
8,
People are sick of being bombarded with depressing news.
9,
Most parents nowadays are aware of the negative effect of too much screen time.
10,
Couples are not as keen on getting married as they used to be.
11,
If TV programmes are unsuitable for children, they have to be shown after 9 p.m.
12,
People are becoming more suspicious of technology companies.
13,
Far too many people are dissatisfied with their mobile phone network.
14,
People are getting so accustomed to fake news that they can't tell what's true and what isn't.
15,
It's going to be difficult to reduce emissions as long as people are so attached to their cars.